These are tales of danger and the pursuit of endless riches. Adventurers and heroes from all parts of the world charging into the unknown, setting steel and magic against the most impossible foes, with each time wondering if this would be the last. Storms gather on the horizon, and evil rises from the waters of despair. These are tales of endless adventure. These are the Awakened Fables.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Cold War of Thogja. My name is Sam, and I'm the Dungeon Master for this particular campaign. With me today, we are a little fewer in our numbers, as we have Addison, Luke F, and Rob immediately here. Luke E, unfortunately, will not be joining us for this particular session, but we do also have Michael hypothetically coming in at a later point. So, if you guys hear a sudden bleep, then we'll know that Scott did not actually edit that out. So, with that in mind, as of the last session, you guys had spent a few days in the royal palace of the Storm Hag, who is one of the Fey Queens who is keeping Thogja currently secluded from the rest of the world. Specifically, she has been in charge of the immense water barrier which has prevented anybody from Thogja from leaving and entering into the Feywilds directly. After a few days among her staff and exploring her many rooms and many options that she provides, you guys have been able to finally defeat the changeling who took Tinkrit's skills and abilities by helping out Tinkrit in a mano-a-mano combat, with many of you subtly providing buffs just prior to the combat in order to do a nice little loophole, which I'm sure the Fae would love. Regardless, all of you now have your abilities back, and with that, we'll flash forward maybe 2 or 3 hours after the events of what happened in the Colosseum last time. So, Tinkrit, you have all of your abilities back. You've gone from level 3 to level 15 all in one go. Solturum has apparently been a bit moody and quiet and sticking to himself mostly in the last few hours. More moody and quiet without actually entering into the narcolepsy side of things, which he's prone to. And Will has been, well, pretty much as normal, I'm fairly sure. Alright. So, in that case, you guys would have been gathered in the specific suite which has been set aside for the party, and I will let you guys go from here.
My boy, so pleased to see you. Oh, please. I missed you so. And your help action.
Trim probably just looks like a disgruntled cat about this. So Trimp glowers back at you before giving a bit of a squeak backwards. He doesn't seem inclined to actually respond to you, but at the very least, you don't get the impression that he's waiting for you to fall asleep before he attacks you. There is just another glowering, and Trimp goes off into a fairly emphatic muttering about the pain of going between various planes of existence without any warning, and also talking about stupid humans who don't know any better, who have access to cold iron, and who have spent the better half of, 2 or 3 days hunting him down in the wherever they actually merged into.
I started getting dagger out of my heart. taking my shirt and shooting a fine adventure here. I'll shirt down there that would be into the shoulders and the lower of the back. One on either side.
So this is a bathroom. You can go away.
I was glad.
I don't know if it's doing that.
Apparently not, considering you rolled a 5 in perception.
My pass is 22. Will I have to do this?
Privately, I'm more worried about myself.
Yeah, surprising.
I just roll at will and black eyes select this comfort.
Well, what's up, mate? Yeah, got a bit of stomach ache. Just take it out on your shirt there. Sure, that's nothing to go on. That shirt looks a little bit expensive. You are always on about how expensive your clothing and tunic, your robes are.
I feel a great change happening to me at the moment. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I have my suspicions. I wonder if what I suspect is true, you will find it out pretty shortly.
Can't wait to see your change.
But what about second puberty? Sorry, what? Oh, who knows? We'll ask Scott later. See what he thinks.
I'm feeling an almost uncomfortable need to perform with the skill that I once had. To stretch those muscles. Can I gather an audience there?
So, with the games completed, then the Stormhag is likely beginning to prepare for her night court. It shouldn't be too difficult to get some entertainment, especially since the Stormhag's most recent bout of entertainment has unfortunately bit the big one. So, yes, and also considering the previous entertainment that you have also provided for the various courts, I don't see you really having much of a problem in getting more of a crowd.
I don't know if I've got a song ready though, but we can just pretend that I did. I know there's some visual.
Very unusual. I'm very worried.
I was busy.
Alrighty. So, in that case, the next few hours pass fairly quietly, and it takes doesn't take people long before they get at least a little bit tired of the constant instrument strumming that Tinkrit is in the process of doing. However, you are abruptly reminded that you have been provided with a almost bribe from a Fae back in the city in order to try and convince the Stormhag to let himself, as well as anybody else, out of the city if she is sufficiently pleased by it.
That's really upsetting.
What's upsetting?
The song that I had, it's gone. I lost it.
Oh, no.
Oh no! Doesn't.
Is that because Norlock or Rick Parrish or Muse and they're not expressing it?
It's the obvious answer, yeah.
Okay. So, shall I roll performance then, or?
Sure, hit me up with performance. Well, that was originally in that one. But it has come out at an 18 plus your modifiers back up to a 34. Is it feeling good now, Rob? You're getting these sort of rolls again?
Ah.
Wasn't your last performance like a 14?
I don't know. We can scroll up and find out. But
It wasn't a 34.
it was not. It was guaranteed not to be a 34.
Yeah.
Sam, I need to sort out Sam as well. Track down that mage and obtain do I that last one?
Yeah, if you'd like.
So I'll do that as well. Tinker's warming himself up.
Alright. So, you are going to be able to make it past... I speak English good. You are going to be able to make your way through the royal palace fairly easily. You do have quite a good memory as to where the incident that took place just a scant few days ago did occur. So it only takes you a few brief moments before you're able to make your way across to the mage's area, and with a polite knock, you are invited to enter into the inner labs of the Fey mages.
Alright, I approached the mage who I assisted to put the wards back in place against the monster from the that was attacking the flame.
Yep.
And ask whether the ward, how the wards holding up. Have there been any more attempts at attacking them?
So, when she sees you approaching, the Fae who had been previously helping you gives a very short bow, her wings flittering as she does so. Welcome back, Master Vikram. I am pleased to inform that we have not yet had any further reoccurrences of outside forces attempting to attack our wards. It seems that whatever you have done seems to have, at the very least, dissuaded their attempts to come after us, at least for the time being. So we're taking the time to shore up additional magical energy to power the wards, as well as fix any... She stops for a moment and offers a glare towards the previous mage, who you may recall as being somewhat snooty towards Solturum last time. And shoring up our numbers to ensure that we do not need to worry about discouraging those who may be able to help us in the future.
Well, that's good to hear, but if, while I'm still in residence, you're in need of my help again, then you only need to call. Which brings me to my next point. I don't think I will be in the Sea Hags playing for much longer, and I'd be interested to know what, in exchange for assistance I gave you, magical items or magical knowledge you could exchange with me.
So she inclines her head. I do recall that I promised a look into some of our arcane workbooks, but if you would have a preference for a magical item, I suppose that may be able to be arranged. Do you have a preference, or...
I'm keen to expand my knowledge of magic, and also keen to extend my power when I cast. So you have something that will assist me in increasing the power, particularly of my offensive spells that are called upon to defend my friends and those who need the assistance of the sorcerer. I think that's very good.
She stops for a moment and taps her chin deep in thought. I believe that we do have a number of items in our storeroom which may be able to, I suppose, increase the amount of force that you are capable of sending out, but do you have any particular magical focus that you have a preference for using, or...?
I'm quite partial
fire. Just a moment. So with that, she walks over to a sealed door, and even from here you are able to detect that there seems to be a formidable layer of warding over it, comparable to the wards which have previously been set up in the library that you have been able to get through. Now, she brings down those wards and passes beyond the doors very quickly in order to go through, in order to do something. You're unable to hear anything further until she re-emerges from the door just shortly thereafter, cradling a small crate of items. In here we do have a number of magical magical crystals, I should say, which are capable of enhancing the elemental output of a particular mage, so long as they do have the obvious training. We may be able to arrange to have that put into a wand or rod if you do have one, but otherwise I can... She stops for a moment before giving a bit of a shrug. I suppose I might be able to arrange to have a staff or or rod created for you if you do not already have one.
A staff would be excellent. I feel almost like I like to live as a sorcerer without a staff. So if you'd be so kind as to imbue a staff or attach the items to a staff, I would be extremely happy with that.
Alright, so she gives a bit of a chuckle before she inclines her head. Of course, it will again take some time for me to arrange this. If you would be able to select any particular crystal from this box which resonates with your magic, I'll arrange to have the stuff created by our artisans and then delivered to your chambers.
Alright, so should I roll
If you would like. It's more of a flavour thing, really.
Well, I do sort of reach out with my magic sense to see what I feel from them. So I want to.
All right, Arcana at 25. Very nice.
Pretty good idea of what these things do.
Yeah. 25. Alright, so pretty much my thought was initially to provide you with one of the there's specific kind of crystals which do up the damage of elemental stuff, and then I was just going to attach it to a staff. Otherwise we can just cut through it and say that we can potentially provide you with a staff of fire if you're inclined. You did roll very, very well during that particular part, so I have no problems with rewarding that, especially since you didn't really get much of a final reward in comparison to some of the other players in your little segment last time.
Well, that gives me resistance to fire damage. Yeah, no, that looks exactly what I want.
Yep, easy. Alright, so in that case, the flavour-wise, you are able to sort through the box of crystals and are able to find one which seems to resonate more naturally with your magic. As a result, the Fey Mage is able to take that away and again approach the artisans in order to have a staff delivered to you. When it is delivered, however, the artisan in question insists on coming along basically to advise you that it is probably one of the most well-suited and powerful staves that he has ever created, and he takes a quick moment almost to scan your face as if to just memorize who is going to be holding this particular staff. You aren't entirely sure what he's looking for, but he does seem to find it, as eventually he just bows and then makes his departure.
Fantastic. Okay. I'll hold it and twirl it around and start doing some start lighting practice moves and quietly laugh to myself and go off to my legs.
Yep. Easy enough. Alright, so in that case, let's move on to Tinker. I'm presuming that you probably sort out the night court and set about entertaining and performing, Rob?
Yes, I found the song.
Oh god. Alright. I'm braced. Hit me.
I think I start from the beginning, so that's the same thing as the green slides, blue slides. That thing.
Okay.
So at the end it goes, it's time to make the ugly bard pay to torture him in unusual ways. It's time to gain our hard-won skills, the experience we gain from monster kills. So as usual, as is the way, Tinker's crew will win the day. We'll catch this devious ugly fay, and yes indeed we'll make him pay. By pay I mean he'll die. I'll spread my rapier between both eyes. Even though he beg and plead, upon his corpse my eyes will feed. And so all shall be returned to us, all we've earned restored with us. We venture forth to take what's ours, and thus fulfill our sacred vows. We work together as a team to make that arse cloud's blood stream. I poked him hard as I flew about. We did, of course, the rules not flout. The look of horror on his face was the sweetest thing found in this place. And thus I cheer the glorious hag, his majesty to all I flag. So let us give a mighty cheer and sink wine and drugs and fairy beer. Now we must venture forth, gain our powers back, and escape this mighty plane, so we can, to some extent, remain sane. What shall remain far? And for Tinkrit and his team, and Salty too, huzzah!
Alright, so there is a bit of a silence following your performance, but it is abruptly broken by the very harsh, almost dusty laugh of the hag, who it seems has been outright tickled pink by your borderline insulting manner, and in very short order the other fae of the court pretty much bow to her whim and begin clapping and applauding on their own. You are able to continue the performance throughout the night, and you also have several other requests for other of your stories that you are able to provide.
Cool. And trickles around the
Fair enough. Alright, give me a quick... Sorry?
I mean, collecting offerings.
Yep, don't worry, I got it. Alrighty, there we go. So, throughout the course of the night, you are able to receive quite a number of gems. It doesn't look like they seem to make much use out of standard gold coins, but you have a multitude of gems, which eventually comes up to the total cost of 396 gold pieces, just from a rough estimate. So it's anything from thumb-sized pieces of ruby to large spheres of rose quartz and other somewhat semi-precious gems. Alright, and Will, what would you like to do for the rest of the day?
I might see if I can go back and get rid of that gold that I buried.
Alrighty, give me a sec while I bring up all those stats. Alright, so the coral forest has frankly gotten a fair bit worse since you were here last time. Now, as a result, you can see that much of the coral has just been outright bleached, and as a result, you are very quickly able to locate where the golem is and where it has been buried. Now, it looks like several fae have done their best to try and dig it out, but it looks like every time they manage to get anywhere near it, it seems to be burrowing itself deeper. Is there a strategy you have in mind that might be able to counter that?
Gain knowledge about terrains and bodies of water and things.
Mm-hmm.
So I can talk to beings of the sea, or I can use the wrath of nature to use all of nature. I can reuse wrath of nature for the second. Just put it in the chat. It's giving me all the text, but pretty much I can move with nature, and I gain the ability to use it to rouse and destroy any evil beings within nature itself.
Yep.
And probably with that, it specifically states I use grass as an undergrowth, but I'm going to put it in context and say sand and stuff also works.
Yep. So seaweed, kelp, and so forth.
Yeah, pretty much. And just use pretty much all the abilities of the sea to shoo this golem and destroy it.
Alrighty, easy enough. So in that case, as you use the Wrath of Nature in order to animate the various parts of the forest, it becomes very evident that you didn't really need to do much to encourage the forest to actually begin to try and dig out this invader, as almost as soon as the magic leaves your own body, the entire area almost animates and just pretty much begins frantically digging to get this golem out. Now, it takes a few moments before the golem suddenly is just outright popped out of the sand by what looks like a jutting, incredibly powerful looking root, which likely comes from the nearest large coral source. If you thought that golems had a face, you would almost say that this one was startled as it was popped out, but it pretty much lays almost motionless on the sand as it tries to process exactly what happened. What would you like to do now?
I'd like to use the coral and rocks corals/trees to do 46 slashing damage and 3d8 bludgeoning damage.
Alrighty. Roll me 3 attack rolls, all at advantage. Blech.
Let's see if I can put it into there. Is that just for damage? Is that 1, 2? I'll just save. Actually, I'll just roll 3d20s. And add my mod to them.
Oof.
My mod is plus 10, I believe.
Plus 10.
At advantage. So.
Yep.
Would you like a bardic inspiration?
I think I should be okay. We got a 22, 24, and another 22.
Alright, yes, that is a pass for all 3. Alright, so that meets the initial parameters I created for that particular challenge, where you hit the Earth Elemental 3 times successfully. So a lot of that is going to be from the help of the animated wilderness, so provide me the flavor. Exactly how do you destroy this thing without it pretty much just leaching lead all over the place?
So the elemental, the golem is pretty much left on the sand. The rocks pretty much animated and are being launched through the water at this golem. Then I'm at the same time pretty much lifting it up and swimming towards the surface. And as that happens, the coral pretty much tearing it apart as I'm swimming towards the surface of it to pretty much yeet it out of the water.
Alright, so the journey up towards the surface takes much longer than you were honestly expecting, considering the amount of light that usually goes around the royal palace of the Storm Hag. However, eventually you are able to find a surface, and with an almighty splash, you toss the golem onto the nearest sandbar. It looks like as soon as it goes there is a sudden crash of lightning, as something else of this particular realm seems to take offense to its presence, and immediately the Earth Elemental is struck by this, and its form begins to fuse together. It's no longer able to walk or move, and with a sandy crash, it abruptly falls to the ground of the sandbar.
That's what I'd like to hear. I wonder how I got here in the first place. I might turn to one of the Fae or the Fae leader that was with me earlier and be like, do you know how long it's been there? Or when it turned up?
So, the various Fae were a little bit edgy when you wandered up, especially after being torn a new one by the storm hag, in order to deal with the problem. However, now that you have successfully done so, it seems that they are quite a bit more friendly, and the only kind of response you receive from the head groundsman is a bit of a shrug. Occasionally we are attacked by these creatures. We suspect that they tend to come from the other various Fey Queens, but we have no proof at the current time. They are constantly seeking to undermine our Great Queen's authority, and nothing would do that better than to poison her entire realm.
Yeah, of course. Alright. We should deal with that. Maybe get a bit of discourse in there. Maybe assassinate the other ones. Fuck with you.
So the reaction you get is simply a very, very unnaturally wide grin, and from here you can see that most of the Fae tend to have teeth which just look extraordinarily sharp, almost predator-like.
You like that idea, huh?
We cannot say one way or the other against any of the other Fae Queens, of course. And then he just, with that, gives a bit of a bow and takes a dive under the surface of the water.
Well, I think Tinker in the Hag's rules at the moment, and perhaps you can find out from her what needs to be done to get us out of here, and also whether she would be so good as to allow the Fey refugees in the city to escape the city while the competition rages.
Yes. Do you want any persuasion call to help with that?
Alright, so you're just specifically going to be requesting of the Storm Hag to functionally let you leave, right?
Yes.
Alrighty. So, hit me up with a persuasion for now. Alright, so 27. Alright, so in between your performances, at one stage you approach the Storm Hag in order to request permission to leave her plane. Now, she seems to be in a fairly jovial mood considering the entertainment that happened earlier today, and as you approach, you can see that she seems to be looking upon you at least somewhat favourably.
Lovely to see you, beautiful maiden. My companions and I are seeking to leave this wonderful plane, sad as that will make us, and we seek your assistance in doing so.
So she gives you a mischievous grin as she stares down at you from atop her throne. So eager to leave my hospitality? You know, most people would give their newborn in order to be here for even half the time you have been, but I suppose I can see my way about releasing you.
I can't tell you how sad it makes us to have to leave at this point, but we have vows which we must keep.
Of course.
Made a deal with other people, and I understand, the Fae understand deals.
We are bound by our deals, of course. So, if that is the case, if you and your boys are willing to present yourself before my day court, then we'll see about getting you home with all due speed.
That sounds wonderful.
I whisper to Tinker, are refugees?
Oh yes. How foolish of me. Your beauty has made me nonsensical. The refugees above, some of them are seeking to escape, and I promised them that I would seek your august personage's assistance in allowing that to happen. Are you able to assist them also? Is your munificence great enough? I'm sure it is.
So the Storm Hag simply quirks an eyebrow upwards. So you seek to leave the hospitality that the Autumn King has created in the city of Thogcha?
Oh, we do eventually, but first of all, we seek to help those who would leave. we will seek to leave first. And then once we have done that, then we'll seek to do it ourselves.
Well, sadly, I do have very strict commands in this regard. I am only able to permit very specific people to leave the city, but I don't suppose you know whether you qualify for that or not.
No, I don't. Are you able to tell us?
So, she just simply gives you a bit of an imperious look at that one. Unfortunately, it is outside of my particular circle of influence, so as a result I think you may need to take some time in order to if you would like to request your departure. I am of course willing to entertain that, but only for very special people.
See.
As you look up at her, you begin to get the impression that she seems to be awaiting something specific.
What was that guy's name who asked us to do it? I can't find it in my notes.
Sorry?
So did we get the name of the player who asked us to speak?
Yep.
It's a guy who plays guitar apparently.
Prince Sentinel.
Yeah, I just can't remember whether we got his name or not, because I don't have a record of it in my notes.
I do know that Rithgar at the very least did, but Michael not being here at the moment is a bit of a problem with that regard. But that
Where is Rithgar?
Rithgar saw another black cat.
Yes.
A musician. Gilbert.
Yes,
A
I'm
musician was
yes.
to leave the city, and I mean, maybe that's a way to approach her with it, to point out that there are musicians and creative types who do not wish to be in the storm
I invite Soltura to join the conversation as a full partner in an Increase and Soltura trading and adventuring co.
Alright. Oh, well, Your Majesty, we were approached while we were in his domain by a Fey musician desperately pleading with us to raise his plight with you. He said that him and a small number of Fey in the city wish to escape from the chaos being caused in the city by the competition, and asked that we plead with you to part the waters so they can escape into the Feywild.
The Storm Hag appears to consider exactly what you've said for a very quick moment before she simply shakes her head. I may have the authority to allow very specific individuals through my my waters, but I do not believe that I would be able to let through an entire crowd. If you have a particular musician who is seeking my benefit, then I dare say he does not feel comfortable asking me directly. You may want to ponder why that is the case, but at the very least I cannot allow an entire crowd, if he himself or even you were to ask on his behalf specifically, I may be able to allow it, but I cannot help every useless Fae who wants to leave the city to do so.
Alright, I understand that. I'll get that information for you, Majesty. I just need to speak to my colleague, Rithgar, who I fear is off harassing your cats somewhere.
Again.
Yeah.
The Storm Hag inclines her head to the side and she asks in a very slightly worried tone, again?
He often believes that cats are devils in disguise.
You receive another dumbfounded look from the Queen before she just breaks out into another raucous set of laughter. Oh, you mortals do come in many types, I have to admit.
It was funny the first time, Your Majesty.
Yeah, it's getting a bit old now.
You mortals, you don't end up savouring the delights of life, but if you must go speak to your comrade, then do so, and I will talk to you on the morrow.
Alright.
Sounds good.
Let's, I'm going to sit, with your lead from that here, I'd like to retire for the evening.
So she waves her hand, basically giving permission that you may leave the night court at your leisure.
Okay. Where the fuck is Rivka?
What?
What part of the payroll is that? Is there any way we can track down Rivka, and get her to tell us what this player's name was?
Yes, you guys can. So, Rithgar does have an absurd level of stealth as well as investigation. So, your best bet to try and track him down might actually be a survival check.
Yay.
23. Alright, give me a quick sec while I bring up Rithgar's stat block. Is D&D Beyond going to work tonight? Let's find out.
It's been a bit up and down. I think he runs buying books.
Yeah.
I just figured this was the time of the night where they just refreshed some of the servers.
I'm sure it will have done, but it's not working all that well.
Rithgar, there he is. Alright, so what is Rithgar's passive stealth function? His passive stealth is at an 18. With a 23, Will, you are definitely going to be able to track him down. Okay. Now, do I do it just, the traditional way where he's actually just chasing a catfish, or do we just play it straight and say that he's chasing a cat?
Oh, cat. We don't want Rivka accidentally drowned.
Oh.
Flying cat is not.
Well, it's a swimming cat at least. Okie doke. So with a 23, you are able to recall that Rithgar seemed to have been at least lost in his thoughts the last time you actually saw him. You aren't entirely sure what seemed to have been bothering him, but shortly after Tinkrit's success at the Colosseum, you did see him eventually walking out of the Colosseum itself, and last you knew he was heading for the palace grounds.
Alright. The palace grounds it is. See if we can pick up the trail.
Let's go. Not this time.
Alright. So, Will, it takes you some time to pick up Rithgar's trail, as it is now several hours old at this particular time, but eventually when you do, you can see that he seems to have been leading him along the path that you previously took, the one which would have led you towards the lead golem. Even as you look around, the rest of your comrades are able to see that this particular section of the ground seems to be quite different and more desiccated than any other area, which is at a distinct difference compared to the beauty and glamour that the Storm Queen seems to go for. What are you rolling for? Oh, okay. That's what was going on. You kept hearing the bloop sound, and I kept looking up, and I'm like, what? You talking to me? Are you talking to me? Alright, so, what would you like to do from here?
We've heard some cats screaming, yes?
No cat screaming at the current time. You just know that his pathway, somehow you've been able to track him underwater towards this area.
Okay. Maybe I'll Maybe I'll just get loaded around with some cat hands.
Alright.
Or there's maybe some cat organs.
That pork.
There's no cat, it's just that.
Yes.
Or there's a demon prince.
Oh, it's actually the demon prince, yes.
Yeah.
It's Cat and it's Lucy.
Alright. An 18. You are eventually able to pick up his trail a little bit further on. It looks like he deviated from his initial pursuit, I suppose, of where the coral bleaching was coming from, and he seems to have been distracted at that particular point. You are able to find that there does seem to be tracks not of a cat any longer, but of a seahorse stallion.
Maybe it's just seahorse I help them earlier. If it is, I'm going to be alright here, because I have to protect that seahorse also with me. Anyway, follow on.
Alrighty. So, with your particular skills, you are able to swim through the oceans, picking up speed as you do, and in the distance, eventually you are able to hear the sounds of a very angry seahorse, who seems to...
What do they sound like, Sam? What does a seahorse sound like?
You know what? Honestly, that is a really good question. What does a seahorse sound like?
Imagine a warhorse, but underwater.
Yeah, like bubbly. Something like that.
I'm so glad I asked now.
You're very welcome.
When you come to water, so it'd be high pitched, something just travel along.
Yeah, but bass sounds also tend to more resonate, at least when you're closer to them.
So it's like a drum and bass horse.
Yep. Sure, let's go with that.
I like that.
Alright. So, when you guys into the particular area, you can see that Rithgar appears to be dodging various attacks coming from a very irate looking seahorse stallion. Will, you are able to ascertain very quickly, it does look like this is the seahorse stallion from before, but you can see the cause of his discomfort. It appears that the seahorse is currently bridled, but at the very least it looks like he has a fairly pointy looking rock which is currently between the bridle and himself that Rithgar doesn't really possess the dexterity to try and undo at the moment.
Mage hand. There you go. Can you do a slide hand thing to get it out?
Sure, hit me up with that. 28. Yep, can definitely tell Tinkeret's back. Alrighty, so with a 28, Tinkeret, you are able to ascertain what the problem is almost immediately, and using your fairly powerful magical abilities, you are able to unwork that particular rock while the seahorse seems to be more intent on giving Rithgar a very good piece of its mind. However, once the pain initially stops, you can almost see this particular thought processing through the seahorse's mind as it abruptly just stops and begins to look around, trying to see exactly what's wrong with, or right in this case, with its brindle.
Be back, baby. Bill, go and talk to it.
Alright. I'll head up and use my scarf to cast Speak Darkness.
Alrighty. So, it appears that the stallion has, shockingly, once again managed to get away from the rest of the Fae, and as a result, it is apparently decided to take a wander when it saw Rithgar. At that particular point, they seem to have startled one another, and in the process, the rock managed to get caught in the harness of the seahorse. And that was pretty much the entire story that I came up with on the fly, so let's go with that.
That's good.
Excellent, thank you. So, with that done, you guys are able to sort out the seahorse, return it back to the groundsman, who yet again are very confused as to how this damn seahorse keeps getting out, and you are able to ascertain the knowledge that the knowledge that Rithgar had gotten previously, that of the Fey Prince who had previously been who has currently put the Storm Hag at least under his command. So yes, it is Prince Sentinor, and as a result of his very explicit instructions, you guys do come under the awareness that if you are seeking passage from the city, you are likely going to require 1, a bribe in order to allow her passage, but 2, you do also need to provide a very specific password at the time, which is simply Trixrev. So, just a sec.
Did you say simply?
Well, it's simple if you have any knowledge about the Scandinavian languages.
Okay.
Password.
Not quite. Roll me a history check if you want to find out the story about that one.
It's in the chat from a couple of sessions ago.
Alright, so you guys have been able to make your way over to Rithgar and been able to establish exactly what might be needed, and are preparing for your day in court the next day. Is there anything else you would like to do for your nighttime while you are in the demiplane of the Storm Hag? And yes, get a good night's sleep is an option.
No, we're gonna know what Esutran, so.
I don't think I do really. Actually, no. I might go find that. What's it called? The seahorse one final time and say my goodbyes. We've had such a close bond.
Fair enough. Alright, so the seahorse is very imperiously presiding over his particular set of the stables. When you come in, he does a bit of a challenging scuff across the ground using his tail, but otherwise he does allow you to approach.
I'm going to speak with him again. I'm like, mate, do you actually like being here? Because you seem to escape a lot. I can set you free, right? And I'll send you off, cover your tracks. Hopefully you'll be found again. You'll be free, mate.
So he snorts, but he appears to take the time to actually think about what you're offering. They provide me food here, and I enjoy all the various mates that they provide to me as well. And again, as you look around, you can see the various mares that they have here. They do not provide me with exercise, and they do not provide me with near the respect that I desire, but the mates and the food are good.
Right. Well, I'll see if I can chat with the stable master and see if he can get you running a bit more. I think a bit more respect too.
So he gives a satisfied snort at that particular one. Yep, you would like to interact with the head of the grounds?
Yeah, probably just gonna go chat to that stable master and be like, wait, do you fucking stop treating that stone like shit, right? There's no need for it. Take him out for runs at least twice a day. And actually respect him like the majestic animal he is.
He swims, right?
Well, swims, runs, exercise, everything.
Whoa, bangs. Someone rearranging their room?
No, it was me getting the beer out of the fridge.
Ah, fair enough.
This is better.
Alright, so with the promise from the head groundsman to try and keep the seahorse stallion at least somewhat entertained, you are able to make your way back to your room with at least the knowledge that you have tried to make a difference for the seahorse stallion.
Good, I'm satisfied. Good night.
Hunk shoo, hunk shoo, hunk shoo. Alright. So the next day dawns bright and glorious. You are summoned before the storm hag at roughly the third bell of the day, so pretty much 9 a.m. or so. When you enter the court, the day court, you are surprised to see that there doesn't actually seem to be any of the usual courtiers here. It appears that she would prefer this particular audience to be done in private with just herself and the rest of you.
Hello, Your Magnificence.
So, she gives Tinkred a bit of a beady look again before she just shakes her head.
I think to myself.
You know what, I might almost miss your silver tongue. It's not too often I have one of you laddie bucks trying to convince me that I'm as beautiful as I once was, but I appreciate the effort.
There are all kinds of beauty, Your Magnificence.
With that, she simply smirks and says, well, the silver tongue it is. You would do, I think, very well adorning my court, but I suspect that you are wanting to continue with your request to leave it?
As usual, you are correct.
Now, as I did mention before, I am unable to provide passage to any who desire to leave the city, except for very special individuals which have been vetted by Prince Setena. So, is there some way that you believe that you've been able to get into communication with the young prince, or...?
Not that I'm aware.
Yes. Yes, Your Majesty. We were advised that this particular individual had the authority of the prince, and that the password was
Trixred.
So, the Storm Hag does not react to the password being given to her, but you can see a very slight glitter in her eyes. So it does seem that you are, at least in... you are in possession of the knowledge which does make you a very special individual indeed. Alright, well, in that case, you have the prince's permission to leave the city, and now you require mine. How are you going to convince me, boys?
Are you telling me that flattery is not working, Your Majesty? I say in a half joke, half seriousness.
Well, flattery does all well and good, but ultimately we do know that flattery is empty words.
Well, we are the Tinkred and Ciruimon trading and adventuring company, and when people seek to trade, often they will share what it is that they want.
So, she gives you a bit more of a steely look, but it seems that you are still within her good graces. I seek oddities. As you can see, my palace has many beautiful items which adorn it, and we do perpetually need material to repair it and so forth. What magical items or goods may go towards the coffers of restoring my vaunted temple?
Would that classify as an oddity?
We do need to take him with us, though. That's a good question. Standard magical items will be of no interest to you, I am.
Standard magical item is... well, you know that I have various mages in court here. I can have the standard magical item provided to me at any time. It's the unusual ones that I have more of an eye on.
Do you have something in mind?
Not really.
Well, I do have a tome of leadership and influence.
You see her sit up a little bit of interest. Oh, you actually have one of these tomes. Is it useful, or has it been used?
Well, for a mortal it wouldn't be of much use, but someone of your longevity, I'm sure you can wait it out.
So she this time gives you a bit more of a vicious smile. Yes, we do have quite a number of these tomes among our library. We are still waiting for many of them to be restored back to their pristine selves.
So that is something you desire.
If it had been pristine, then perhaps, but in its current state, I think not. She drums her fingers on the side of her throne once more. I suppose there is always the previous arrangement that we had mentioned. If you are willing to provide more boons to myself that I can use in the future.
I'm leery of making promises I'm unable to keep.
You do not believe that you will be able to respond to these boons?
I'm not certain. That's why I hesitate to make such promises. And I hesitate to make such promises for my company as well. I'm sure you understand being a leader and its responsibilities.
So, she stops for a moment again and the drumming continues. It's a fairly loud sound and echoes oddly well in the throne room, which at this point is incredibly large. I will not be told that I am not reasonable. Of course, if you are unable to fulfill your side of the bargain, then perhaps it could be picked up by another of your lineage, or perhaps if you are able to provide... What was it I said before? Enough of these empty words to amuse me, then perhaps it could be simply the boons will last until either completed or you no longer walk this world on the mortal coil.
Can I ask if you'd be interested in fame on the mortal plane?
She waves her hand again. You've already offered this one to me only mere days ago. I have plenty of fame, and even if it is not there now, my fame will wane and grow again over the centuries as the mortals remember and forget my power.
When I promised that, salty old boy, do continue.
Well, look, I'm also reluctant to agree to a boon, but we do have a Dan's Instant Fortress, a truly wonderful, wondrous item that might take your Majesty's fancy.
Oh? And what would that be, my young mage?
Well, I was able to assist your mages to protect your realm from the attack of an eldritch force from another plane. As I'm sure you are aware, it had almost broken through your warding before I stepped in and assisted your mages. Dan's Instant Fortress is somewhat analogous to a wards. If your realm is ever under attack, would provide your warriors, when pressed, with a magic instant fortress that would spring up to surround them to allow them to regroup in order to defend your realm from your many enemies.
Alright, give me a sec, guys.
Of course, I have to confirm with my colleague Tinker that that's an appropriate gift for Your Majesty.
Alright, so Instant Fortress. There it is. Okay, so she thinks about it for a moment before she does incline her head. An Instant Fortress does possess both use and rarity that I am interested in this, at least for the sake of my particular warriors. I believe that such a artifact may be worth the passage of 3 individuals.
No, that's not acceptable. It is. I know the value of this item, and that is a bargain for you that I'm not prepared to give.
Right. Hit me up with a persuasion.
Shall I do it?
You're plus 16, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm only plus 8. Well, that's if you don't. I mean, I'm giving you an out here. If you don't want to give that over.
Mate, if you want to give the fortress, then
I might have another option. Look, and hear me out here. I was involved in helping clear your land, your ocean from being poisoned, and apparently I heard along the grapevine it might have been because of some of the other Fey Queens. I'm happy to do you a favour here, and after you send me and my friends to complete our quest, to maybe eliminate one of or multiple of those Fey Queens and stop them from ruining your kingdom.
So with that, the Storm Hag sits forward, and like the head groundsman before, Will, you experience the sensation of a Fey leering down at you with a very sharp smile. See, boys, this is how you compromise and negotiate with the Fey Queen.
we are a company.
So, you believe that you possess power enough to handle one of the Fey Queens in her own dimension? Well, you did take care of that whiny brat Rhiannon, and I suppose, having first-hand seen your skills, do believe that you may be able to do so.
I do have a few tricks up my sleeve, but
And we did that whilst missing many of our powers.
Alright. I will provide it under the proviso that if you are not successful and you manage to survive the attempt on one of the other queen's life, that each of you would owe me a boon instead to make up for it. Again, this will only be the case if you do fail and somehow manage to survive, which you have seen my own defences. You can imagine what the other queens would have around their particular palaces.
I'd like to confer with my members of my company for a moment, Your Majesty.
Of course.
Alright, Addison.
Guys, I don't want to do that, but I'm happy to lie.
yeah, no, I don't
I
think.
think she might know if we lie.
Perhaps my deception is substantial.
Look, let's say we'll do it after she takes us out, so we'll do it last, and then after she's done it, just won't come back.
I think if we're gonna make a deal, we make it honestly.
Okay.
Michael's obviously off the plane now. I sent him a text message saying we're being attacked by a seahorse. and his text is going, it's how I wanted to go out.
He needs to think bigger. Okay. Let's do it. I have wanted to kill a queen.
Right, sounds good. And break.
That's right. Your Majesty, we would be happy to assist you in removal of impediments.
Of one of your impediments.
A single impediment.
So you see her eyes crinkle with mirth as you make that correction. Smart boys, finally learning how to negotiate with the Fae. Alright, in that case, I will grant your boon. Each of you may have passage out of the city to, I presume, seek the autumnal castle and make it known to my young prince of the autumn that you do not greatly agree with his plan for the city of Thogcha.
Okay, sounds good.
Right.
And thanks for the compliment, at last.
Well, in the meantime, if you would like to make the preparations, if you return here, I will send you and your party back to the city from whence you came.
Which city?
Thogcha, of course.
Well, I was kind of hoping it might be another one when we finally got out.
Yeah, right.
Okay, fine. That would be lovely. Thank you, Your Majesty.
So she inclines her head once more, and as you're beginning to get used to, waves her hand in permission for you to once again leave her chambers.
Did she tell us who she wants us to kill?
Nope.
Okay, let's get back to the city.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now, as DM, I don't mind if you forget this, but as a storyline person who enjoys having it all completed, don't forget you do have that promise you made to Jesper to try and bargain for him to leave the city as well. Are you going to go back on that negotiation, or...?
No, we do need to do that.
No, we won't.
We just may have forgotten.
Yes, not May.
Well, one more thing, Your Majesty. The specific individual.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You see a scowl cloud her face for a mere second before she maintains a normal expression. Jesper, you say? A fae?
A fae. And what is one fae? Given that he apparently has the permission of the prince, he knows the password, and it's not a group. I take your objection to a bunch of people, but just the one fae.
And you would seek his departure from the city as well?
The elimination, it would be a further throw into the bargain for the elimination of one of your enemies.
Sorry, say that again. You're a bit muffled.
You're a bit
The passage of one fae through the waters to the Feywild it's loose change compared to the bargain that we struck to eliminate one of your enemies.
She leans forward once more. Nothing is loose change to one of the Fey Queens. If you would care to barter for the passage of one Fey, what would you offer?
I'll give you a crystal ball.
A crystal ball? Does it have magical properties, or is it simply crystal?
No, I've never used it.
And... No, it's all good.
Or alternatively, a ring of evasion, which I have used and I've used very successfully. It would be perfect for sappers or infiltrators in your military forces.
I mean, I could just put you guys out of your misery and remind you that you were given a jewel by Jesper to bribe her with.
I had totally forgotten that.
Okay. Alright, I'm playing around here. Jesper has given us something which he believes would persuade Your Majesty to grant him passage through to the Feywild. And I pass across the gem to have a look at.
Alright. So, when she picks up the gem, you see her eyebrows raise for a moment as she begins to inspect it. Oh, this is very nice and sensational quality. She looks it over again for a moment and then does the odd standard thing of attempting to bite it. Finding whatever she seems to want to find to be true, she looks down on it and then tosses it in the air where it just promptly disappears in a flash of white light. Accepted. This Fae may have my permission to cross the boundaries of the city at the same time that you do.
And thus solve Sam's OCD.
I made so many hints.
I know, we were particular about it, remember that. I think it's because Rutger had that interaction, I think.
Yeah.
It's all good.
All done. You to me.
That was a good excuse for us, wasn't it?
Yep, definitely.
We were terribly into the narrative and just we're letting the other player role play it. Because we're good blokes.
And that.
Yeah.
Sure, let's go with that.
Right.
Okay, so
Meanwhile, back in the city.
you guys are able to make your final preparation, and upon returning back to the throne room, the Storm Hag keeps up with her promise and returns you back to the exact same location that you had originally arrived from. Now, it does seem to be about the middle of the day when you arrive in Thulcha, and you, even as you look around, can feel that the air seems to be substantially more chilly than it had been on the day that you had left.
As in, do we have any sense that time may have passed differently outside of the Hag's realm?
You can roll me an insight or perhaps a survival.
Sure, go ahead, Will.
13. Alright. And a 14 from Tinkrit.
The insight.
Yep, for insight. Sorry, my bad. Alright, so with the insight, it's not enough for you to really understand, but for 13 with Will, you have a very brief look around and make note of the location of where the sun is in the sky, as well as various other factors around you. You get the impression that a much longer time period has passed than simply 4 days since you have been in the city.
It's definitely been more than 4 days.
Let's find Lester quickly so we can get out of there.
Yeah, good idea. Let's go.
He's long dead. It's been 400 years.
No, I'm not that
It
mean.
wasn't a whisper, was it?
I bet people still haven't forgotten my songs.
Alrighty, so you guys can see that Thulcha does still seem to be in the Feywilds, but you have noticed that the amount of Fey, at least hovering above the city, seems to be roughly the same amount as it was prior to your departure. So you're not entirely sure how much time has passed, but again, you're certain that a decent amount of time itself has passed. Aside from that, there are no overall changes to the city itself, though you can see that there does seem to be a fair amount of destruction in certain places where it hadn't been prior to your departure.
Okay.
Alright, so because I have no trust in your memories anymore, Don't forget, Solturum, you also now have the recipe for cold iron as well.
Mm-hmm.
What does Tinkrit
The
have?
only reason I let the dagger burn. To be clear.
So yeah, that might be a factor for you as
It's
well.
not the only reason, it was actually pretty cool too.
I spent so much time trying to reforge that.
Let's go find Solar. Once we again Jesper over, let's go find Solar Farm.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great plan. Let's do that.
Alright. So, Jesper, in order to locate him, you are pretty much not going to be able to rely on any particular trail or knowledge that you have before. So, what would you guys like to roll for this?
Is Rithgar with us again?
Rithgar and Norloth are indeed with you. They're just very quiet.
Isn't Rithgar our best tracker? Or was that the other dude?
I remember maybe in the city where I remember it wasn't the city. I could fly in that direction from above the city and located.
You have wings?
My wings are flying.
Spend time with mate, that's your flying capabilities.
With my wings are flying, which I've been using repeatedly for a long time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right.
Yep, fair enough.
What is wrong with you people? Jesus.
Well, I already established we have terrible memories.
I think they...
And yes, the brain of the operations was Trimp, who was away for a while. Alrighty. So in that case, it looks like you might be doing a just flat perception check. So hit me up.
Yep.
Would you like a bardic inspiration? No, you don't need it.
Oh, an unnatural 20. Alright, so your journey over the city seems to reveal much of what the impression that I mentioned before. It looks like a substantial part of the city has been destroyed, and again in a far shorter time than you have honestly been expecting, but you are eventually able to see a figure in the distance who, even as you watch him, seems to be shape-shifting into a variety of different forms. It takes you a moment before he does assume one that you abruptly recognize, and you can see Jesper seems to be heading into a small alley toward near where the warehouse headquarters were previously.
Mm-hmm. I fly down to him. Jesper?
He freezes for a moment and then turns to look at you. He has a very politely interested face expression on his face as he looks at you.
Well, Jesper, the hag is prepared to grant you passage. You must make your way to the river immediately.
He gives a small, almost mocking bow. Of course, Master Vikram, I will be able to do so. Were there any requirements of the Queen in regards to my passing?
No, she accepted. None she's told us, but she accepted the gem. She seemed quite taken by it, in fact, and agreed to let you pass through, but you must do it now, as she's returning my party from her realm.
I think we got a few wires crossed with this one. Yeah, I think so. Specifically that he must cross out of the city when you guys do, but you guys crossing back into the city is not part of the deal. So crossing into the city is fine, she's happy to return you, but then you guys also negotiated to leave the city as well, and then that's when he can go.
Oh, okay. So,
yeah.
Yes, Jesper. When we go, you go. So, you may wish to join with us and stay with us so that you're able to leave when we do.
So he again gives that bow. Of course, I will see you to my belongings, and I will meet you perhaps at the charming warehouse that you once set up shop.
Hold on a second. What are you talking about?
He simply raises an eyebrow. You are aware that it has been some time since you and your fellows departed for the Storm Hag's realm, correct?
Yeah, we've established that some time has passed. How long, in fact, has passed?
It has been... what is the mortal count? The moon has been full, and it was full a second time. I believe 28 of your days have passed.
Well, collect your belongings and meet us at. I described to him the location of a warehouse on the dock, but approach cautiously because you may not be considered to be a friend until we are there to grant you safe passage.
Don't forget that you guys and the clans abandoned the warehouse because of the destruction onto it.
Yeah, it was a ton of ways. It was the temple we've got, the temple we've gone to, isn't it?
The guild hall, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, guild hall. No, I know that. I just want to know why he's talking about the warehouse.
Yeah, that's
when we haven't been there for 2 months.
Well, the charming warehouse that you once dwelled in, I believe that it might be, like you said, the prime meeting point.
Well, no. I think we're on the right page. I want to meet him there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't quite understand why he's talking about that.
Oh, okay, got it.
We'd left. So, sorry, I don't trust him.
No, really? So again, he just inclines his head. I will be there with all due haste.
Alright, I launch into the air and fly back to Tinkrit and the rest of the trading and adventuring company. Alright, gentlemen, I managed to locate Jesper. Somewhat strangely, he knew of the previous location where we had camped at the warehouse and offered to meet us there. I gotta say, I have some reservations about trusting him. So I've asked him to meet us there. If he wishes to leave the city, I've told him that he needs to join with us and assist us, because we're his ticket out of here.
Right, yeah, that sounds good.
Do you guys perhaps want to take the Norloth and Rufgard? Why don't you take the recipe for cold iron to Solithine and get cracking on building making some cold iron weapons? And why don't Tinkrit, you, Will, and I meet this Fae at the old warehouse?
I'd kind of like all our weapons to be turned to cold iron or cold iron, to be perfectly honest. Wouldn't that be a valuable thing to do? And are we in a rush?
Not particularly. I'm sure it'll wait for us.
Yeah, it doesn't have much choice, does he? What do you reckon, Will?
Yeah, to be honest, look, I reckon cold iron weapons for us all might be useful if we do that first, and then I'm sure Jesper won't mind waiting for us.
Yes.
For a little
Well, he
bit.
can't get out without us, so he doesn't really have much choice.
Exactly.
And he's Fae, so do we trust him? If he turns upon us, cold iron weapons will be of value to us. That's my thinking.
Agreed.
I don't know why I'm not trusting people, but it's...
Look, it's hard to trust people when you lose all of your power.
Perhaps that's why. Okay.
Alright, so with the knowledge that you now have that time has definitely passed, you begin to move through the city towards the guild hall, only to arrive to find that the guild hall itself seems to be a burnt husk of what it once was. You can't see, as you go through it, you cannot find any signs of life, though you while going through, you do happen to notice that there seems to be a small survival sign which has been put very subtly into place using two fairly innocuous beams which have been crossed over and basically altered.
Oh, okay, right. Guys, look, this is it's a sign that someone has to outside around.
Everything's destroyed. Right. What do you want to do, chaps?
What's the sign tell us, Will?
It just tells us that people have survived and people are alive. How new is this sign? What does it sound like?
Roll me an active survival or an active insight.
Maybe that's what Jesper was talking about. Maybe they've returned to the warehouse and he's observed them doing that.
Alright, so with the 10, you are able to ascertain that it does look like whatever has happened at this particular guild hall, there are survivors. A quick indicator seems to acknowledge that there are currently 35 humanoids still living, and it appears that they are heading towards a new area. The only indicator that they're giving as to the new area is simply a headstone.
Sanitary?
Yeah, sounds like maybe the crypts they've gone to.
Not the bloody crypts again.
I think so.
Was there a cemetery besides the crypts in this city? Those crypts don't normally have headstones.
No, but it's a good enough thing to lead us in that direction. They want somewhere defensible. A cemetery's not going to be defensible. It's open ground, and I don't recall seeing a cemetery. So I can.
Did kill Rhiannon, which means that the it's safe further in.
I could do a circuit of the city and see whether I can see a cemetery, and meet you at the crypt entrance.
Yeah. Well, Trimp will go in the opposite direction to try and see how the time you spend.
All right.
Alright, roll me an active perception check on behalf of Solturum, and Rob, can you give me one on behalf of Trimp?
Or
Well, I'm not seeing too much.
And that's a persuasion from Trimp. Yep.
Oh. Where's his perception? Just use wisdom, I suppose.
Alright, for a flat 10. Alright, so Trimp, as he ducks around the city, he is able to evade the various Fae who seem to have taken over the majority of the areas. He unfortunately is not able to find any particular cemetery, but he is able to report back to you that it looks like the crypts, at the very least, do seem to show some signs of life, as it appears that the Fae seem to, at the very least, be watching the crypts, but do not seem to be actively going into the crypts.
It's pretty funny that the crypts are showing signs of life.
Now, Solturum, you attempt to do the same thing, but you do get distracted on various accounts as it looks like several airborne Fae attempt to try and take you down. However, due to your power levels, in contrast to the various Fae, you are able to deal with them single-handedly. Do you want to give yourself a moment of awesome, or would you like to just carry on?
Well, I think they will try and swamp me at once. And so what I do is I cast Storm Range and proceed around the city blasting lightning bolts with crackling lightning rippling all over my body, my eyes stark white and emanating a bright light, just launching lightning bolts at any Fae that comes within distance of as I get through the smaller Fae and make my escape.
Alright. Now,
I'd like some crispy Fae, please.
Noted.
Plummeting trailing flames and smoke to the stone buildings and roads below.
Alright, well, many of them are minor Fae, and as a result are unable to actually deal with your magic, and as a result do successfully die. You do take out one or two major Fae, however, who are more inconvenienced by your specific attack, but apparently it hurt enough that they are unwilling to try and annoy you a second time. Now, for Will and Tinkrit, as the two of you make your way through the city, you can hear the sound, the distant sounds of what sounds like a immense thunderstorm crashing above the city, and even the clouds above seem to indicate very stormy weather, which seems to be swirling almost specifically around one pinnacle point, which alters as it goes around the city.
Isn't that the direction that Solturum flew off in?
Yeah, it seems like it.
It's another one of those moments.
I just like Addison's tone there. It's like, again.
Great.
Well, didn't bother us. Let's keep moving.
Yeah, no problem.
Alright, so as you get to the crypts, Will and Tinkrit, with your sharp eyes, you are able to see that what Trimp has identified is correct. There does seem to be a fair amount of Fae who, even as you look at them, attempt to give you threatening gestures and evil looks, but don't seem like they want to approach you or hinder your method into the crypts.
Your normal stealthy thing, Will?
Yeah, it's basically constantly on.
Okay, so yeah, that's a 37, and I don't know what Will's, but...
Alright, well, you guys have a 37. Again, 40 is generally the accepted cap, so the gods, again, don't realise where you guys are. And a 33 for Will. Alright, well, in that case, I tried giving my flavour, but you guys didn't want it. What do you guys want to do with your flavour?
I'm a bit tired of Fae, to be perfectly honest. And their naughty ways, so let's make our way straight to the crypt and see what we can find.
Alright. So, you make your way into the crypt, waiting only for Ciruimon to rejoin you, and there is the distinct smell of ozone around him as he lands in front of the crypt and in front of you.
It was you, wasn't it?
Of course. I was slightly delayed.
I jump up to give him a pat on the back.
Can I see any Fae within 120 feet of the entrance to the crypts?
Several.
Alright, I shoot five bolts at them and let out a blood-curdling draconic scream.
Alright. So, it only takes 2 of the 3 of the Fae to fall. Wow, alright, 14 for a fireball. Before they get the message and unmass, most of them just simply lift up and flee the immediate area. You guys witness about probably 100 to 200 Fae just lifting up from various rooftops, from various hiding spots, and just fleeing the fireballs of Ciruimon.
I'm gonna go.
Alright, gentlemen, let's go into the crypts. I'll just blast.
Three of them. I don't know how what's the damage. It's like each one is 1d10 plus 6.
Yeah, we were having that problem with Eldritch Blast last time, weren't we?
Yeah, it's just doing 1%. Oh, massive! 9 plus 12.
Fair enough.
23.
Alright, so getting in on the fun, Tinkerit likewise begins sending out various Eldritch Blasts, and it isn't long before you pretty much decimate, or at least indicate to the various Fae that this is not a safe place for them to dwell at the moment.
Yo, back off!
Tell the one king that Tinker and Soldier are back in town.
That's right. Proper, salty, and secret.
I guess I'll just stay back, let you do your thing.
Will's just like, what am I, chopped fish?
I'm gonna say Tinker, that felt good.
It did.
Alright, so as you guys enter into the crypt, there is an immediate shuffle from the shadows which are immediately to your right as you enter.
Hi, Solifine.
Light? Alright. So the burst of light that you let out shows a fairly startled looking young warrior. This one appears to be a young orc who does level at least a somewhat shaky spear at you. Even as you look at him, you get the impression that this is not actually a proper warrior. Based on the age, this may have actually been one of the children that either Clan Solkling or Coldstreak had brought to the city to protect.
I'm going to use sleight of hand to take the spear from his hands.
Alright, hit me. With a 34. Alright, provide me the flavour. How do you successfully do so?
I say, look at that! I'm pointing behind him, and then I snatch it.
I just drive past him. Into the crypt.
I say, follow us, boy. You're in no danger from us.
Alright, so he begins talking, and the language that he's speaking is that of the giants. Do any of you guys speak giant?
I do not.
No.
Speak common. I'm a racist.
A racist halfling.
He stops for a moment, and he just simply looks fearfully at the spear that Tinkerit is now levering at him.
I'll give it back to you. Relax, let's go.
What is the password?
Huh? You don't need. We are not the droids you're looking for.
Listen, lad. The password is we just took your spear without any resistance from you. If that's not a good enough password, then I don't know what is.
And then
Where
they
is everyone else? Yeah.
So he stands up a little bit taller, but apparently Tinkerer just rolled a 19. So Tinkerer, with that, he deflates a little, but he grips onto the spear and again tries to level it at you a little bit shakily. Why? Are you fey creatures?
I've lost my patience with this guy.
Alright, combined 20.
Boy,
This poor kid.
take us to where we want to be. I.e. the people in charge.
I reiterate what Tinkerer has said at the same time, causing a glowing aura of flames to form around me.
Yes, that sounds like fun.
Intimidating a child has never been so much fun.
Have a lollipop, perchance?
Not anymore. Take us to Solopine now.
Alright. So either from the combination of the magic or the fact that you guys apparently are willing to terrify the crap out of a kid, the young boy apparently he instantly jumps to and begins to lead you through a secret passage which he had been guarding the entrance to. Now, as you go through the secret passage and follow the boy, you are reminded that you look around this passage with some familiarity. It has been one of the ones which you had passed through fairly early on, only in the attack on the city. As you follow the standard through the crypt passageways and corridors, it only takes you a few brief moments of leaving the passageway before you come across a fairly wide open area. There are quite a number of crypts, but in addition to that, it now looks like a bit of a refugee camp almost, as there are various areas which are set up to with tents, with some food capabilities. There is a fireplace going, though it doesn't look like it is it has much fuel left at the moment. You can see various adults currently milling around the camp itself. Many of them are injured, and in the distance you can also see the figure of Solothime, who, from the last time you've seen him, seems to have rapidly lost quite a lot of weight.
Right.
Oh boy. You don't look so well.
Alright. So, upon looking at you, Solothime instantly holds up his hands, the glow of magic around it, as he readies a spell to attack just in case. It has been some time since we've seen the five of you. We thought you lost to the Fae. But he stops.
Unless the party would have been lost, sort of fine.
Peace, Solopine. We've in our, for us it's been but a few days that we've been in the Sea Hag's realm, but we know that it's been at least a month since we left. That is the cause for our delay, but our venture to the Sea Hag was extremely successful. I pass across to him the recipe for cold iron. We can now start producing weapons to defend ourselves from the Fae. Here is the recipe for cold iron.
So his look of suspicion melts into one of immediate shock as he looks down at the recipe before him. He seems completely startled by this particular advancement before he is eventually able to bring himself out of it. We must test to ensure that you are not the Fae, but tell me, what was our last method of testing for Fae?
He you asking us a memory question again?
Solifine, it was coal line, but we
It's
can't
coal
do that.
line.
The dagger has been destroyed.
In killing my double, I noted the dagger.
Alright.
I took so much time and effort to fix it after they broke it once again. He does this big old show.
Nag.
I'm gonna go and kill my double. You know what? Everyone else did it, mate. Anyway, you're just lucky we got the bloody recipe.
Yes, I am.
Alright. So the relief of Solifime is almost palpable in the air as he sags almost enough to make you worry that he's about to fall over. Thank the gods, we had honestly thought you had been lost to the Fey forces. You truly have found the cold iron recipe? He says as he looks down at the piece of paper you have.
That was Salty's work.
And I have made copies of it as well. So I have a copy of it myself, and I have a copy which I can provide to the clan, which I'll keep in the event you know that this copy doesn't get out. But can you start producing the weapons immediately?
He takes a very brief few seconds to read properly over it all. Yes, I believe we can. We have enough mages here that we can activate the magical components of this, but... Oh, and yes, Blood of a Fey, we definitely have that in vast quantities at this particular point. And I...
Yeah, there's a problem outside.
It's just short enough.
I believe that we should be able to make quick work and begin to reinforce our own weapons in the process of making cold iron. We would likely require the use of a smith, but I think we can possibly make use of the other abandoned guild halls in that particular part of the city. It's almost guaranteed one of them has a smithy there.
Well, we need to start doing this immediately. I also require crossbow bolts made of cold iron.
And I would like my rapier to be updated.
Will?
Yeah, mate. Yeah.
What do you need to be made
Probably
cold iron?
just the stuff.
What about claws or something? Can you do? Can your stuff like wear claws or anything?
I get it.
What's the best defensive animal that you can turn into? Don't say skunk.
Killer whale.
Yeah, currently it might be I think giant scorpion, saber-tooth tiger, polar bear.
Or perhaps we can model some cold iron claws or teeth or something like that. You can get a grill. You can get a grill.
Grill sounds good.
Grill for a gorilla. Alrighty, well, in that particular case, Solithime nods and begins muttering to himself. Yes, we should be able to have everybody's weapons infused. It's likely going to take us a few days, but if we rush it, at the very least we can possibly have your own weapons fixed maybe by this time tomorrow. You said that you were in the court of the Storm Hag?
Yeah, Sea Hag, Storm Hag. We were there.
Fascinating. And did she provide you at least any help as to how we're going to be able to defeat the Fae, or...?
This is a memory question. If it's a memory question, then yes, he did.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
I think our best strategy is to try and sow some discord among the Fae groups. There seems to be, from recollection, discord within the Autumn Kings quarter as to this particular venture that he's progressed on. Am I remembering that right, Sam?
Decently so, yeah.
Yeah. What was the prince's name?
Satana.
Katana. I'm slipping it absolutely into metagaming territory here, but I'm just trying to remember. But I thought that there was some discord between. He wasn't a fan of the competition, or am I misremembering that?
I think that was the Sea Hag.
Sea Hag.
The other Fey Queens weren't happy with one another.
So the Sea Hag was not happy with the competition, as she saw it as quite needless in this particular regard. She was basically being coerced into participating and providing the protections, but she obviously was more than happy to help you guys out once you had the appropriate things. So yes, you are correct. There is a bit of a difference between their views and whether they're happy to be doing this or not.
Alright, I communicate that to Solithine.
Oh, it's information, though I'm not entirely sure how much use we'll be able to make of it. It seems regardless of the hostility that they may have towards one another, they are more inclined to continue providing that hostility to we humanoids. But any information is good information, I suppose.
Perhaps if we can place enough pressure on the Autumn King, they might take the opportunity to attack the status quo.
Well, it is an idea at the very least. If the Autumn King is able to at least set down that he would like everyone to withdraw, but he is still playing by the rules of the Yolkine as well, so we may be able to undermine his, I suppose, diplomatic issues with the other Fey Court, but at the same time we may be also able to force him to give up if we are capable of getting his particular artifact before he is able to locate the final artifact of ours.
So I think that's plan A, isn't it? Just continue on with plan A.
Yes, I think yes, it makes sense to me. Let's do that.
Alright. Solithine, do you know whether the shiftings of the crypt have sealed off where we went through to kill Rhiannon?
The opening into the Royal Keep is still there. The crypts do tend to move around, but it seems that opening is at least a permanent place, even if the direct pathway to it is not always the same. But we have been able to keep track at least of the crypts over the last few days. I believe that we should be able to lead you there as required.
Alright. So, gentlemen, do we cold iron up and see if we can infiltrate the keep and find the Autumn King's artifact?
That sounds like a good idea to me.
Alright, I need to go find Jesper though. So I'm going to have a brief. I'm gonna go and track him down and bring him back here. So when I'm bringing the Fae back, he is untrustworthy, but may be able to provide us some assistance.
Solithime just kind of blinks at you. You wish to bring a Fae here?
He wishes to flee the Autumn King. We've done a deal with the Storm Hag to get him out when we get passage out of this realm. So he may come in useful. He appears to not be an ally of the Storm King. And what's the Storm King's name again? Oh, sorry, the Autumn King's name again?
The Autumn King is potentially Prince Sentinel.
Okay.
Though it could be that the Prince and the Autumn King are separate, you aren't entirely sure.
Okay. So, do you know what the name of the Autumn King is?
He stops for a moment before he frowns. It's not exactly something that's really reported, at least among the men. I've, by this point, made a very thorough study of the Vaaderlund mythology, but the Autumn King has always been a secretive one. I don't believe I have knowledge of his name, unfortunately.
Alright.
But if you are intending on bringing a Fae at least back to here, can I please request that it at least happen once we do have some weaponry made of cold iron, just in case this Fae is not quite as trustworthy as he has led himself to believe?
Perhaps some cold iron shackles.
Just save a chunk and then we'll bleed to death with it if he does step out the night. Weapon there. Breaking.
You know what I'd like to make? Some cold iron caltrops.
That sounds horrific put into practice. Considering the description for what happens when they touch cold iron.
Yeah.
That's an excellent idea, thank you.
It happens occasionally.
Alright. Well, can I go grab, actually, no, let's get some cold iron.
Alright. So, the process of making cold iron, as soon as they do have the recipe, it looks like many of the people around the camp do immediately snap into action, and many of them begin to gather up some weapons, as well as it looks like some raw iron stores, which look like it has just been fresh dug from some particular location. The group begins to head out of the crypts and presumably over to the guild hall, where they will be starting the process itself. For the rest of the evening, you guys do spend time in the camp, just basically being brought up to date as to exactly what's been going on around the city and advised as to the general extent of the destruction. It does sound like more than half of both of the clans' numbers have been slain over the course of the last month, and as it is, they have been desperately trying to protect both the children and the artifact, which they have identified as being the main key points that the Fae are after from the particular poem that you guys were provided about a month ago, I suppose now, in this particular timeline.
Monkey poem?
The one... Yes, the monkey poem. Alright, so over the course of the night, Solithime thoughtfully begins to look over that particular poem before he brings it up to the rest of you. Gentlemen, you said that you think that the Autumn King is in the Royal Keep, where the previous Fae lady had been?
Well, it's a presumption. Do you disagree?
It's one of these last few lines. It makes me feel like his location may not actually be within the city itself. The final line simply says, "If wits you lack and the end you chase, our Lord will prove elusive. Seek our autumn castle's embrace, its location quiet and reclusive." While we are in the crypts, and they do tend to be fairly quiet, I don't believe that Thogcha in general can really be described as either quiet nor reclusive.
Didn't the Sea Hag mention something about the Autumn King's castle?
It did.
Storm Hag?
Yeah, definitely did.
Yeah,
Definitely did.
doesn't ring a bell.
Sam?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What did the Storm Hag say?
Okay, roll me either history or insight.
Why isn't there a memory skill?
Well, yeah. That is not roll 20, 16. Alright. Just a sec, sorry. I'm hiccuping over here. Alright. So, Solturum takes a quick trip down memory lane, trying to ascertain exactly what the Storm Hag may have advised. You don't recall her saying anything explicit about the location of the Autumn Castle, wherever it might be. But it does strike you as odd that she seems to have been working under the assumption that you would be entering in, requiring her passage and entering into the Feywilds in order to locate the prince, which does again strike you as odd, considering if it was in the city, you would not require that actual permission.
Alright.
That's really confusing to me, guys.
No, I remember her. Look, it makes sense in terms of the deal she did with us. because the deal was to get us into the city and then out again.
Yeah.
So
The city's in the Feywild.
yeah, and the Autumn King's Palace is in the Feywild.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so she knows exactly what she wants us to do. And we need to take this Jasper.
Jesper's gonna know.
Yeah, but we keep him with us.
He's gonna know where he goes up.
Jasper's puck, I guarantee it.
Yeah. I hope not for
He's
his
a shapeshifter. You see, like when I was tracking him down, I was flying across and I saw a Fae rapidly changing the way it looked until it turned into Jasper.
Right.
So I think we shackle him up in Cold Iron. I mean, I don't like to.
Well, that won't kill him, will it? It'll just cause him pain.
Oh, yeah. I don't really want to do that. But I do want to be able to restrain him in a way where he can't be a risk to us. Or he can't escape.
That's probably the best course of action.
We could stick him inside a bag of holding.
You can't breathe in a bag of holding, though, can you?
For like 10 minutes.
So we open it at 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I just have the mental image now of like Tinkrit holding a bag and every 10 minutes just opening it, and then there's just a very loud cartoonish okay. Anyway, carry on.
It's unnecessarily cruel, Tinkrit, I think. Though, I think perhaps shackling him in Cold Iron is equally bad.
I was about to say that's going to leave him in constant pain.
I'm just wondering whether he's capable of being charmed.
Normally say,
There, what are the, what's the, oh, for some reason I don't have charm person anymore.
Did you change your spells?
Yeah, I couldn't remember what I had, so I tried my best, but obviously, I thought I had charm, maybe I didn't.
I can do suggestion.
Well, could always just intimidate the fuck out of him. Or persuade him.
Persuading is quite useful.
Somewhere a young orcish boy is still sobbing.
Particularly if you roll a god level persuasion.
Yeah. Probably won't be god level, but I could do a pretty good one.
You're past 16, you roll a 20, that's 36.
Yeah.
Isn't that god level?
Yes. Well, he's not with us. Well, I have to wait until we do get there, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So I suppose we wait out until our weapons are...
Yeah. Long rest time?
Long rest time.
long rest time.
Alrighty. I'm presuming you guys don't need to make any changes over the long rest, aside from refreshing healing and spell slots. So the night passes, and aside from the occasional bout where a Fae has decided to enter a little bit too deeply into the crypts, you guys are able to pass it fairly easily. It does look like the camp that has been set up has been rapidly having problems with maintaining enough food for, one, the adults, and two, the children, but it does also look like many of the warriors are having problems receiving an adequate source of healing as well.
Oh. Well, I had quite a bit of healing I could have done in the short term.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to share my rations up. And also, to the extent that lesser restoration will need assistance. Go and cast that 3 times.
Okay. Mass healing word from Tinkrit as well. Alright. So,
In range, got 7 points of healing.
excellent. So, the you guys are able to work throughout the night in order to try and recover as many of the warriors as is possible, and in addition to that, also try and settle down the children and also deal with their own wounds as well. You are able to make a sizable difference, as it looks like the Fae seem to have been attempting to pick off whatever mages they could, and it looks like your group now collectively are the most powerful mages residing within the city itself. One upmanship. Just a little bit. Alright. So, you guys are able to make that difference, and come morning, you are presented with your weapons once more, this time reinforced with cold iron. It doesn't look like they decided to go the full hog and absolutely reforged your weapons, but it does look like they've managed to at least coat your weapons, at least the cutting edges, with a fair amount of the cold iron required.
That's all we needed.
Yeah, easy.
Excellent. Alrighty. So, come dawn, you guys are going to be seeking out the young master Jesper?
Yes.
Alright. So, you begin to approach the warehouse. Again, the Fae, for the most part, are avoiding you, though it does look like on the occasion they seem to be contemplating ganging up on the entire group and seeing whether they'll be able to take you on, but it looks like the majority of them seem to think better of that, at least at one point. In the end, you guys begin to approach the warehouse. You can't see any changes or differences to it from the outside, at least immediately. What would you guys like to do?
Okay.
Should we call out or should we stealth? Suss it out? Yeah, I will. Actually. Yeah.
I want to see. So outside, there's a fairly large force of Fae, is there?
No, just whatever Fae has been in the city up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, perception of 17 from Addison. Alright, does not actually see anybody currently active around the warehouse, but you can see that there has been signs that it has been at least somewhat cleared up. For the most part, you don't think, at least none of you can't see any particular traps or anything actually set up to cause pain to you guys. It looks like Jesper might be actually trusting you to just be leaving the place at this point.
Alright, where is Jesper?
As you guys begin to go through the warehouse, you can see that there is a solitary figure who is waiting on the docks. There is a small satchel right next to him, which he keeps one foot on. You assume that's his belongings. At the moment, he seems more inclined to be just staring off out onto the river, as opposed to actually doing anything else.
Jesper.
I'm going to stealth first to be on the safe side.
28 for stealth. Very nice.
So I'm just going to walk out along the dock to him. Jesper, I shout out.
He jumps and abruptly whirls to look at you. You can see that he does not seem to be overly accustomed to being surprised, and when he does, his hand immediately flickers to his belt, where you can see a small, very finely worked dagger, which has, now that you've been in the Stormhag's palace, has been worked in the Fey fashion. When he sees it's you...
Can I look at that dagger and see the level of quality of it? Is it sort of standard sort of Fey workings, or does it look to be something a little bit more special?
What is your passive insight?
11. But I'm happy to roll that.
Is there an appraise? Anything that like a thief has?
It kind of just comes under insight. Insight's kind of the coverall for memory judging, blah, 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 blah. Trust me, I had to go like through 1 or 2 years of this going, what do I want to use for this, before I eventually just decided that insight was what I was going to do from here. Okie doke.
I might do an arcana check just to see whether I sense any magic.
Yep. Alright.
I'll do an insight from behind.
Nat 20 from Tinkerit, Arcana from Solturum. You are not able to detect any magic within his particular blade.
What a waste of a good roll.
You are not able to detect any power within his blade, and from the inside of Tinkerit, you are also able to ascertain that it seems like a standard Fey blade. There doesn't seem to be any overall care to it, but it is sharp enough that it can be used as a usable weapon very easily.
Did my 24 for Arcana identify anything else upon his body or his bag that resonated magic?
Yes, you are able to ascertain that the bag itself seems to be a bag of holding. It looks like he does have a number of items in there, but it seems to be cloaked under the magic of the bag of holding itself.
Yes, sir.
Tempting.
You've got the 37 stealth for kind of his belt.
Alright.
I could. Is that something we really want to do right now?
Well, you guys are stealth at the moment, aren't you? He doesn't need it there. As far as he knows, it's me. Well, I'm not sure what Norloth and Lufgar are doing, but you and Will are stealth, aren't you?
Yes, we are.
So, as far as he knows, I'm assuming Norloth and Lufgar are keeping undercover in the warehouse. As far as he knows, it's just him and me standing on the door.
That's right.
So let me see what I can. I'll go. Yes, sir. We're ready to part, but I need to be certain that you are going to be an ally and not an enemy. I have my colleagues on the way, and they are extremely suspicious of the Fae, as I'm sure you can understand from what's gone on in the city over the last period. So why are you wishing to flee the city?
So Jesper looks a bit wistful for a moment before he opens his mouth to respond. The city, I find, holds no pleasure nor challenge for myself. We were ordered here in order to, I suppose, provide harassment for you humans, but many of us have had to operate under the direct orders of a king that not all of us are necessarily loyal to. With the permission of
and that king's name, yes, sir.
He gives you a bit of a rueful look. Unfortunately, we are not permitted to actually say his name. There is a magical reason behind it, which I'm sure that a mage of your caliber would be able to identify, but we are unable to ascertain it, or at least reveal it to outsiders.
Where will you go once we give you passage across the water?
He shrugs his shoulders. Here and there, I suppose. I might try my luck in potentially one of the Fey courts, but the Feywild is a limitless place. Honestly, there are many things that I could get up to. I might even make my way back to the mortal plane at some point.
How far from here is the Order of the Kingstone?
He begins tapping his fingers on his chin pensively. I suppose it would be about 6 days as the Fae flies. If you are walking or potentially mounted, you might be looking at a journey of maybe, I want to say 10 days?
Where else close to the city is part of the Order of the Kingstone? Where does it start?
We are located in the heart of the Autumn King's domain. He has allowed the Storm Hag the portal to her own plane as a sign of respect, especially since he directly wants her help, but we are definitely within the heart of his territory at the moment.
I think that.
Let me just wait right here. I just want to see how far behind me my colleagues are. I'll be right back. I'm going to go to the warehouse.
Alright. For insight, Tinkrit, you can see that this line of questioning seems to be making Jesper rather nervous. He has begun to flick his wings in a bit of an erratic, again, nervous way, and the way he's fidgeting back and forth, you can see that he's beginning to reconsider his, at least offer to remain here in the warehouse until such time as you're ready to leave.
Yes. Maybe he is a breeze copy.
What do you mean by that?
Well, we never found the breeze copy.
Did we get the manacles?
Doesn't we have the bands of holding? Bands of restraint or something or other?
Someone look at his character.
I think that was Nero.
Is it Nero?
Yeah.
That does feel like a Nero thing, but give me a sec. No, he does not.
Right. Well, shall I try and nick that bag of holding, my friends?
I would say so.
We can always return it to him.
Yeah, exactly. It's collateral.
Salty, you should distract him to give me advantage while I try and steal it.
Alright, I will go back out to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. Some of my colleagues are in the warehouse, and a few more are making their way to trying to avoid the Fae in the city to meet us here. So we'll have to wait another 10 or 15 minutes before we can call for the assistance of the Storm Hag. What was the gem that you gave the Storm Hag? She seemed really taken by it.
You can see that he has been fairly pensive, just thinking over everything that you have said up to this point, but your question seems to have outright distracted him. The gem, it was simply a flawless piece of aquamarine. Much of her palace is created out of it, you know, the whole water aesthetic that she has going, but it is quite...
She can use that to transmute it to make further... to use it as a base for building more of her palace. Is that why she found it so enticing?
That's right. There is no longer any more aquamarine to be located in her own specific area, so she does tend to treasure it when she can get it from other locations.
You know what I don't understand, Jesper? Is why, bound the Autumn King as you are, you sought the help of us. That seems like something which is inconsistent with your obligations to the Autumn King.
Again, you have caught him flat-footed, and he just stares at you, almost goggling, before he gives a bit more of another mischievous grin. Well, I do believe that it is good for a person to have hidden depths, but the Autumn King has not really done anything to win and keep my loyalty, I suppose.
But you agreed to serve him, didn't you?
Many of us did not realize what we were getting into. Honestly, we thought that this would be a lot more fun than it has actually been.
What's I just don't understand this. But you made a deal with your liege to participate in these games and to do everything that you could to ensure that he was successful, and you've broken that promise. I think I want to know why. I mean no disrespect, and as you know, I have pledged your case to the Storm Queen, to the Storm Hag, and got you passage out of the city. But I don't feel you're being straight with me.
I cannot provide you more information, I'm sorry. I am simply as I am presenting myself to be, but I have been...
You are presenting yourself to be. I've seen the way that you can present yourself to be. You can present yourself to be many different things. What I'm trying to work out is who you are.
I am simply a Fey changeling who is sick of the current regime and wishes to find a new king or queen to serve.
Okay.
Right. So
I'm
he...
going to just go check and see whether the rest of the party's arrived. We should be able to call the Storm Hag shortly to help us.
Alright. So as you begin to head away, the Jesper waits until you are just out of sight before he begins looking around for his belongings. When he is unable to find it, you hear him suddenly swear, as well as the buzzing of wings as he begins to take flight.
I say, don't go anywhere.
You get a startled look from Jesper, but he begins to fly above the ground, and you can see that he's about to take off.
Okay. I can grab him. I can stop him leaving.
Hit me up with an attack roll to try... strength to try and grapple him.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Nope, okay.
I'm just going to try hold monster.
Oh, okay. Hold monster. Choose a creature you can see, blah, 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 blah. Wisdom saving throw. No effect on the undead. That is a weird exemption there.
Yeah.
Alright, wisdom saving throw.
Last campaign, I was going, doesn't work now.
Oh yeah, now I remember that. He has rolled a 2. Alright, hit me with the flavor.
Alright. As I hear his wings buzzing and I hear Tinkrit shout out to it, and I turn around, throw my hand out and cast hold monster. And he drops the small distance from where he was up in the air and thuds down onto the dock, completely paralyzed.
All right. Paralyzed.
And then I shout out, Rufka, bind him.
Because we're shit at it.
Alright, give me a sec, guys. Paralyzed. Capacity. Okay, so as Jesper falls to the ground, he begins yelling at you all in various tongues. So you hear him yelling at you in both Fey, Common, and he's calling you all kinds of things as he does so. Rithgar surges forward and rolls a 21 to bind him in rope, however. Alright, so he is rapidly tied up, and it isn't long before you have a glowering Fae just staring up at you, completely and utterly pissed off and trying to pretty much cause you to die just from sheer glaring at you.
Yes, calm down. There's nothing you can do in this situation. If you cooperate with us, then no harm will come to you.
Because we seek to do no harm to you.
Alright, So he has been gagged. He just raises an eyebrow as he looks at Tinkrit after your particular comment.
We just want to be certain that we're doing the right thing. And you have been hiding stuff from us.
Look at what's in the bag.
Yeah, I'll open it up.
A small child.
Alright. When you open up the bag, you are able to find that the bag is containing a veritable treasure trove of magical items. As you scan through them, you can see that some of them seem to have the emblem of Clan Coldstreak on them, some of them have the emblem of Clan Solvecleak on them, while others are just an assortment of other magical items and various things. It takes you a few moments before you do also recognize some of the belongings in there as having belonged to members of your own party, who these items very shortly going missing after the initial reveal of the Fae into the city.
Copy Breeze. This is the Breeze copy. Well done, sir. I'll give him a little clap. You won't be needing these any longer, surely.
Yeah.
Nod when to indicate your agreement.
He just rolls his eyes and then gives a shrug.
Tinkrit.
Yes?
Willful.
Yeah.
He's stolen from the clans. There are laws which govern how this must be dealt with. Are we not obligated to return him to the clans so that they may judge him for his thievery?
The representative of the clans here, which would be Solifime at this stage, would it not?
Do you believe so?
I'm happy to do that. We must retain these things as evidence.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely. We're going to have to take these into our own persons. Like to get said as evidence.
Yes, as evidence. Okay. What do you want to do? You want to take him back to Solifime? And
I think we need to. I think the thing as well is that what he's stolen is of value to the clans and will help them defend themselves in our absence.
Yep. Makes sense to me.
Thanks.
It sucks having a lawful good character sometimes, doesn't it?
I'm okay with that. I'm chaotic good, so I've decided that makes sense.
Chaotic neutral, baby. Give me. No, you know what? I want it.
You want it?
Oh.
Alright, so
Start chaotic neutral.
with that in mind, guys, I guess you pick up both the Fae and his belongings and begin to head back to the crypts. And with that pretty much brings us up to the end of the session.
Cool.
Right.
Alright, would you guys like to nominate an MVP?
I'm going to say I think we all did smashingly well tonight.
All of us. We're all.
Yeah, I think we all.
I'm supposed to say yes.
I'll vote for Tinkrit, you vote for Will, you vote for me, and we all get to roll.
Done.
No, I'm almost inclined to actually... I'm inclined to nominate Rithgar, considering he did quite a lot for you guys, even though he wasn't here.
What?
Well, it's for the end of the day. Can you let us game the systems once?
This is literally recorded for the public consumption.
Yeah, the audience is going to love this shit.
You said it out loud.
So what it mean? Like how the party got one over the DM. They love that shit on Reddit.
They're fucking even up, man.
Yes.
Well, considering I'm fairly sure that's what you guys are going to make me do, fine, I'll accept it in this case. But I won't be...
And Michael's not going to care. I've already told him he died of horrendous death by a cartoonish seahorse.
But I am going to fight back in my DM way and not give you guys the additional nat 20 to your tallies.
Fair enough.
Yes, sir.
Alright.
Yeah, deal.
Addison, melee, magic, or rogue?
I'm gonna go last week.
go magic then.
Magic. Alright. D20. That is an 18. Ooh, that looks like a rare magic item. Awesome. Roll me a D4, then a D6. That is a 3. Followed by a 4. So magic item. And... okay. That kind
Ring
of...
of evasion.
No, not quite. But similar level, it's a mantle of spell resistance.
Aha.
That's not too bad. I've got one of those.
Alright. Rob, hit me all with the sorry, mage, melee, or rogue?
Oh.
Rogue. Alright, 13. Alright, this is... I don't know what it's been with you. You've actually been not rolling magical items as consistently as you did last time.
Okay.
But, in this case... actually, I think you got this last time. Either way, it's really familiar. But you found the equivalent of 573 gold pieces worth of black opals.
Black opals.
Yeah. Okay, so I knew that was you. That's...
So the black opal stock for the trading cooperative is very healthy at the moment.
Apparently, yeah. Alright, and Luke. Mage, melee, or rogue?
Mage, please.
Mage. Alright. D20. That is a 12. Uncommon item. D4 followed by a D6. That is a 1 followed by a 1. Okay. 1 and a 1. Now, it looks like you have come into possession of a Rod of Retribution. Adamantine rod is tipped with a glowing crystalline eye. The rod has 3 charges and regains all expended charges at dawn. When a creature you can see within 60 feet of you damages you while you're holding this rod, you can use your reaction to expend one of the rod's charges to force the creature to make a DC 13 dexterity saving throw. The creature takes 2d10 lightning damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one.
It's like Fellowship View.
Yeah, just lightning themed.
So, Rod of Retribution.
Yep. It's in the chat now. Alrighty. In that case, so 3 sessions left in the season now, guys. Thank you to everybody who has been listening to us. I hope you all have a great night, and I hope you will join us next time, where you guys are going to be dealing with, from the sounds of it, Jasper, who may or may not be the changeling who took Breeze's powers. So, have a great time all, and we hope to have you back next time. Bye.